The newspapers in this country really don't want to upset the very tough. The most bizarre thing is that normal people in this country who don't necessarily enjoy conspiracy theories. If you go to a bar, you'll find 3 people go, "Ooh, but the royals did it." Didn't they? I think most of the British public still believe it was dodgy. I believe Mohammed Rfa will always believe as dodgy. I believe the establishment want it all to just go away for whatever reason. And I don't know the answers to these questions. All I know is that the inquest has probably raised more questions than in the end he answered. And it answered a lot of questions. I would still say it was fantastically convenient for the molecule that this woman died. Just think what she might be saying that if she hadn't died. Think what a problem it would have created. The committed think of it. You know, it would have created serious constitutional problems that even she was perfectly capable of as somebody who started a movement to end the. Back to the night that Diana died. It was known that they used the decoy similar to when Diana will often unseen meeting with JFK Jr. Instead of JFK Jr. using the side private door that the paparazzi was expecting, he used the front door hiding in plain sight. I wonder what they spoke about. Because of the internet, the public is starting to connect the dots. Masses are awakening, but the mainstream media doesn't like that. So they put out news like this. The shocking allegations about Princess Diana's death. Authorities now reviewing the new and sensational claim that she was actually murdered by the British governor. It was his chief legal affairs anchor here with more on that, Dan Abrams. And Dan, talk about a conspiracy. Oh yeah. This may be the most thoroughly investigated car crash ever. But when you're talking about the death of Princess Diana, it seems some will never accept the official finding after all, attributing her death to negligence, mistakes, bad behavior. Isn't nearly as tantalizing as a claim of her. It seemed like a terrible accident and was officially ruled just that, an accident caused by, among other things, the gross negligence of driver Henri Paul. But now Scotland Yard is looking into a new claim that Princess Diana and her boyfriend Fayyad were actually murdered by British Special Forces. 16 years ago. This month, and everything you bring in stories about Special Forces personnel. Then, immediately you've got the prospect of a red-hot store. The allegation came in the form of a letter during a court-martial of Sergeant Danny Nightingale, a British Special Air Service sniper convicted of gun possession. The letter alleged that a fellow Special Ops soldier told their unit orchestrated the princess' death and cover-up. I have a team of people over there on motorbikes, designing the planning, the hell, operational wasting with cars, etc. So the car be driven down that speed driven by motorbikes together at the high speed driven into the tunnel, and the strobe like them would be used to disorientate before, so you lose control of the car. Okay. A new book said to be published next week by author Alan Power also claims the British government had Diana killed because they saw her as a threat. Services. And the monarchy this time, as we realize there's a big danger. Power alleges the princess was pregnant and planning on marrying Fiat and possibly preparing to leak embarrassing information about the prince. The problem in 2008. After 6 months of reviewing every piece of evidence during a formal inquest into Diana's death, no evidence was found that she was pregnant or engaged, or of course murdered. It was no conspiracy to murder any occupants of that car. Buckingham Palace has not commented on the allegations, and Scotland Yard is choosing its words carefully, saying that this is not a re-investigation, but that they are just scoping the new allegation. Now let's be clear. This accusatory letter came from the strange parents of the wife of a former intelligence operative. Talk about hearsay upon hearsay upon. but when it comes out just as a new book saying the same thing emerges, Scotland Yard has to at least look into it, and it's just too good for us. Not to us. Can you imagine the kind of conspiracy this would have had for all of us who would have had to be involved and to have not said anything for all this time? Is absurd. What is Scotland Yard really doing? Right, as you say, they're not calling an investigation. They're saying that it's going to look at the scope of all. What do? Well, publicly and privately, they're doing two different things. Publicly they have to say, look, we are going to examine this. And we're being very careful about what they say privately. I am sure that they are rolling their eyes and saying, oh, another one of these amazing work has also been done by citizen journalists and are dangerous. Alison, but anyway, let's get on with this. In 1981, right before the marriage to Charles, Diana, got to know who the real Windsors were. The Queen Mother put together a ceremony at the Clarence House. It took place between July 1st through the 7th, right before her marriage to Charles on the 29th. It's known as the last 7 days of the oak tree cycle. And in esoteric law, it's a ceremony called the awakening of the brand. According to Diana, the ritual consists of all of the females from the bloodline who are going to be in the spotlight, publicly hot positions, merry reptilians, to produce the up-and-coming, generations of rulers. Diana. The Queen Mother, the Queen Prince Philip Lady Forma. I can't never say her name for Moyne. Diane. His father Earl Spencer, Prince Charles, Camilla Parker Bowles, were the only ones present at the time. Diana was brought into the room after she was doped up by Lady Moyne. At that time, Diana was explained to that she was not her marriage was nothing to Charles. It was strictly to produce heirs and nothing more. They told Diana that Camilla was his main squeeze, so to speak, not her. And when Diana later questioned why Charles could not carry on that while so Camilla, it was told to her not by the Queen, but by the one of the oldest members of the royal employee staff. Diana also told Christine that no, she wasn't hallucinating or crazy, that they were not a get-go type lizard nor typical garden lizard, but pure demonic. She noticed their eyes change. At first, the form of their skull, of their teeth became jagged, their skin oil and looking as if they were sweating heavy salad. All they cannot hold themselves steady or steal the air in the room became immediately thicker with a smell. And smelly, I am sorry. She was terrified. She remembered looking out towards Charles, Camilla and even her grandmother for some sort of help. That's the Lady for Moya. And, they continued focusing on the Queen Mother and Prince Philip as if they were feeding on them, emotionally speaking. She would joke around with friends or try to pass it off as jokes, that they weren't coming. Anyhow, next, they brought out a tool called the golden paints. It's something to do with the Cyrus symbolism, which was used on Diana to signify the opening of the womb. It was described by Diana as reptilian-shaped priests. Wouldn't prepare communion, makes him a small amount of her blood and they put in the mix, they poured into the mixture into it. And passed it around. And while they were chanting demonic chants regarding fertility, but it was all spoken in Latin. Diana was not very well versed in Latin. She did, however, understand the word fertility after the ritual was over. She was told that she would never again be honored by attending any more rituals, and any future rituals will not be questioned, period. They had to rituals for each of her children, one on the eve of their birth, and one on the fresh dawn of that first 72 hours of life. She was not allowed to attend, of course, and was not allowed to know what took place. She was extremely scared to have children with his family. Diana suffered greatly during her marriage to Charles. She became extremely blaming, had huge anxiety issues and serious issues with sleeping. She admitted issue is extremely scared of this family and particularly Charles. She had no trust for, but at the same time, as they can twist it, as it sounds, she wanted his love and acceptance. She had his children for him and she felt like maybe that would bring them closer together, but their life was pure hell together. In this shocking confessional by Illuminati whistleblower, Arizona Wilder, she confirms what many conspiracy theorists have claimed to be true, that the Queen of England is in fact reptilian. Dr. Joseph Mengele, who took me around to these, rituals. A lot of the time, was Haldol slow. Shapeshifter. There are people in the European countries that I've seen, shapeshift and be involved. The Queen there, I've seen, Princess Margaret there. I've seen Charles there. And they shift. I have seen Tony Blair there. And he shaped ships. They all have their quirks, as to how they act, even in their reptilian form. Someone who's been talking about around this subject. And it seems to be a popular right now. This man by the last name of Sitchin. I've seen at rituals and he is a shapeshifter. What did you remember about Zachariah's situation? Was someone in the rituals who are in attending the rituals, who was not a major player in, as far as the rituals went. I was someone that others present did not make remarks that are very careful as to what they said around him. And, he was talking about, he would be talking about, doing away with people or persons that were in his way or were putting out information that he didn't feel that he wanted put out. He is very much in this informer. And that is his job, to disengage form about what is going on with the Illuminati and with the reptilians. Off from investigating the reptilians. Interestingly, there are 8 eggs. It's like a nest of eggs kept down in that part where it's warm. It's very warm down there in this, into the sand trance. And, these eggs are kept down. They're incubating and they are the reptiles' eggs. What if have you seen the royal family to the Queen Mother, and the other people you've seen in the ratios? What have you seen them to? And that the dagger goes into the goblet. Where are these robes? But they don't wear anything underneath the robes, because what isn't going to happen? What the rituals are all about? They're going to shapeshift, and they can't have anything on under the robes. And there orgy kind of things that go on at the rituals also. And the royal family of Britain, yes. Involving the royal family of print and the sacrifice and the eating of consuming the sacrifice. And they are involved in that. And you've seen them do that. Yes, I have seen them do that. People in Britain, listening to what you're saying, would obviously be staggered. I guess, anywhere in the world. But what would stay to them mostly is, in Britain. The Queen Mother has an image of being the nation's grandmother, the nice old lady and a good old Queen Mom. What a lovely lady. What's your experience of the Queen Mother? She is very cold in reality, and she is very cruel. Yes, the human body that if they choose to occupy or take when it was young, it ages. But when they take the reptilian form, these reptilians live hundreds of years. And when the time comes, if it is time for her to go on and it's been chosen that she's still had. I mean, it's known that she still has lied for years to go again. She will be put into the body. The essence of her and the reptilian form will go. The essence of her will go into another body that also has the ability to shape-shift, interrupt, Helene form, pure reps and even bloodlines. What happens when take the Queen Mother as an example? What happens when they shapeshift? But I mean, what do you see? you start to see changes happen, and they're happening so fast that it's almost it's the closest thing that I seem to, it is, what they're now doing with computer technology. It's just a literal transformation that happens very quickly, and they get taller and they get bigger. And, they don't look at all as reptilians, like they do as humans on and fast, the wearing of the robes, because if they were in clothes, the clothes would be torn apart. So let's take the Queen Mother on this subject as an example. We recognize her as a frail older lady. What does she look like when she shakes shifts that these rupture Richard she has? She looks like the nose portion gets very much longer, and it grows into kind of a snout kind of thing. She has little bangs, and incisors as teeth, and there's a tongue. They all seem to have this kind of tongue. When they're in at this level, your tongue has a lot of long, hairy or pointed projections coming out of its very long. And, they have these. They don't have hands or feet. They have these claws, and they have, scales and also scales that seem to kind of disappear into one another. But it's more, pronounced on the back. There seem to be lumpy or protrusions coming from the head. There seem to be some kind of growth, appendages at where, on the back. And they seem older, and not all of them have that. And there is a tail, and they, a lot of times, keep the tail curled. And when, and I've seen her when she's very, just pleased with something, as I've seen other members like this, this tail is whipped around, very agitated, and they do, and she hits cut her other, which one in particular? Check the Queen Mother as an example. She's, kind of, age color on the underside. And by the time you're going up around to the back and in the tail and the top of the head and on top of the nose now, whatever it is, it's coming to a very, they're dark speckles or large speckles of dark browns. And, the eyes usually they're large. They look like they're very round, and they look like they're coming out of their sockets and, very protruding, and, usually the color ranges, from beige to, go to, greenish gold. And then there's this dark slit up and down, a vertical slit. And, when in the eyes will look hooded, and when they look hooded, it's a very frightening thing, because it seems that when the eyes are hooded, they're about to do something. You've seen do that. I've seen, the Queen Mother do that, and Prince Philip and Charles. I've seen, Gita, Rothschild do this. It seems that I've seen it more among royalty or so-called royalty do this thing. People that are not titled if they don't seem to. They seem like it feels like they don't dare. But they shaped shift on the last. But it's like the royals that Steph. Is there any way, when Diana was married and shows without attending a blood ritual, that she could have seen him, or one of the others become a reptile? They have a tendency when they're asleep, to shapeshift, and not, they have to consciously hold their form. And when they're asleep, they have the tendency to not hold human form, and the shapeshift interrupt Chilean would tea that Santa's blood would tend to cause a momentary shapeshift. So what do you think when the Queen have killed Diana in a similar fashion as they tried Michel Trudeau, but failed, then later accomplished? I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told who's Jeffrey Epstein. No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate to well say that that also cost the story. She told me everything. She had pictures, she had everything. It was unbelievable. What we had everything.